I made a mistake, and and at a certain point, it came time to pay for it.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're discussing our picks for the stories of heroism or perseverance in the face of adversity that turned out to be either heavily fabricated or outright false. We'll only be looking at stories that were published, or at least well documented.
I gave her so many opportunities to stop and make it right.
Sarah Delaschmidt. She went to extraordinary lengths to fake a variety of illnesses and tragedies. She pretended to have leukemia and breast cancer, buying wigs to hide her real hair.
By lying, I was getting attention.
She claimed to have muscular dystrophy and attended a camp for people with disabilities in a motorized wheelchair. She faked pregnancies, then told people she'd lost the babies. Delaschmidt apparently did it all for attention, but she also accepted donations from nonprofits and help from volunteers for her supposed conditions.
The FBI was here, and they went through her house.
Eventually, she pled guilty to multiple fraud charges and was sentenced to federal prison. Ashley Kirillo, a Canadian fraudster with a similar MO, also faked a cancer diagnosis, raising thousands of dollars online and even accepting a free trip to Disney World.
Her story has sparked huge reaction from outraged web users.
JT LeRoy. He was a teenage author who grew up in extreme poverty and suffered childhood abuse.
There's so many things I'd like to do.
He shared his story with the world through a semi-autobiographical novel, a book of short stories, and a novella. Except it was all made up. JT LeRoy wasn't even a teenage boy. He was an adult woman named Laura Albert.
As a very young child, I disassociated, and I told these stories in a male voice, and it was the way I
After the success of JT's novel, Albert went so far as to enlist her young sibling-in-law to pose as LeRoy in public.
It's like you're living a double life. I had my Savannah life, and I had the JT life.
When the film studio that had optioned the novel learned of the deception, it sued Albert for fraud, since a contract signed by a non-existent person isn't exactly legal. Albert's wild story has inspired a movie, a couple of documentaries, and even an episode of Law & Order.
You hired him to play Sweetie Ness, didn't you? Based on the book that you wrote, based on the life story that you stole from Cody Larson.
Nasdij. From pretending to be a teenage boy to pretending to be Native American, Timothy Barris had a successful career as a writer and editor before he took on the persona of a Navajo man named Nasdij. He published critically acclaimed memoirs under the name, which tell of Nasdij's difficult past and his adoption of 2 children. In early 2006, a journalist uncovered the hoax. Barris, who had no Native American ancestry, was widely criticized by indigenous authors who accused him of appropriating real people's suffering for personal profit. He's not the only writer who pretended to be indigenous. If you read The Education of Little Tree growing up, you might be interested to know that it was actually written by a white supremacist.
Forrest Carter doesn't really exist. This is Asa Carter, a man who's one of the most notorious racists.
The Salt Path. This 2018 memoir by Rainer Wynn became a bestseller in the UK and was even made into a movie starring Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs.
We lost everything.
Look me in the eye, coward.
It detailed Wynn and her husband's experience with homelessness and terminal illness, and the healing that came from walking hundreds of miles along the English coast.
It gave way to an ability to live in the moment and to not spend each moment worrying about what the next one would hold, but to seize this moment and to hold it.
Except a lot of it might be false. A reporter from The Observer dug into the Wynn's background and found plenty of dirt, from embezzlement accusations to unpaid debts to a criminal investigation.
She had been creating invoices. She had been signing checks.
The report even suggests that Wynn's husband is lying about his diagnosis. Wynn has denounced the accusations, but there seems to be a lot of evidence that the reporter's claims are accurate.
I think we need the truth. Other people could well have been hurt by all of this.
Angel at the Fence. Herman Rosenblat was a real Holocaust survivor who spent nearly a year in concentration camps as a child. However, his story about meeting his wife during his imprisonment was totally fake. Rosenblat claimed that a young girl threw him food over the camp fence every day for months.
And she took out an apple from the pocket and stepped forward and threw it over the fence.
After he was liberated and moved to the U.S., he supposedly reunited with that girl and married her.
Every morning, for years, you wake up, you look at each other, and you say, I love you.
When Holocaust historians noticed holes in Rosenblat's narrative, they did some research and discovered that the girl who would become his wife was actually in hiding over 200 miles away during the war. Rosenblat managed to secure book and movie deals before the deception was revealed, but both were canceled after he confessed to fabricating the story.
My belief was in me that I was telling the truth, but in reality, I wasn't telling the truth.
Lymphoma Can Suck It. Amanda Riley was diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma shortly after her first child was born. At least that's what she claimed on her blog, Lymphoma Can Suck It.
Everything about being sick brought me closer to God instead of pushing me away.
She told people she had a terminal diagnosis, and when support came pouring in, she started asking for donations to cover supposed medical expenses. Over the course of 8 years, she collected more than $100,000 from well-meaning people. But you guessed it, it was all a scam.
She showed herself in hospitals with IV drips. She showed bruises under her eyes. She showed a shaved head, fundraisers, trials that she was going on.
Riley was eventually convicted on wire fraud charges and sentenced to prison. Australian Belle Gibson also lied about a severe cancer diagnosis, but she claimed to have cured herself using whole foods and naturopathy. She made her money promoting her fake cures to actual cancer patients.
You have a responsibility to make sure your story is right. I'm not trying to get away with anything.
Michael Orr and the Tuohy family. 2009's The Blind Side tells the story of homeless teen Michael Orr's adoption into a rich family and his transformation into a star football player.
This team is your family, Michael. You have to protect them from those guys, okay? Listen. Okay. Tony here's your quarterback, all right? You protect his blind side. When you look at him, you think of me, how you have my back, how you have his. Okay?
When the movie came out, Orr was annoyed that it portrayed him as unintelligent and implied he had to learn the basics of football from this tiny white lady. In reality, Orr was already a successful high school player when he started living with the Tuohys.
You don't have to have someone save you and rescue you to go out and be successful. You got every tool in you.
But it gets so much worse. It wasn't until decades later that Orr discovered the Tuohys didn't actually adopt him. Instead, he says they tricked him into signing a conservatorship that gave them the rights to cash in on his name. He filed a lawsuit to end the conservatorship in 2023.
Michael sees it all as sort of wrong from the start.
The Malarkey family. These people certainly earned their last name.
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
When Alex Malarkey was just 6, he and his dad Kevin were in a serious car accident. It left Alex paralyzed and with brain trauma.
I really like being around people, but it's so much work.
6 years later, Alex and Kevin published a book called The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven. It supposedly tells the story about Alex's visits to heaven during his near-death experience and subsequent recovery.
I don't think it's so far-reaching that a loving God, a graceful Lord Jesus Christ, would touch a young man's life, show him things.
Just a couple of years later, Alex came clean, admitting that it was all made up. He has since apologized and asked bookstores to pull the book from their shelves. Kevin, on the other hand, has stood by his story. The book sold over 1 million copies before it was pulled.
Right. So retailers are no longer selling the book. They're taking it off the shelves, which they should. I mean, if you want any credibility as a retailer.
Tania Head. From the boy who didn't really go to heaven to the woman who wasn't really in the Twin Towers. Tania Head, real name Alicia Esteva Head, is a Spanish woman who claimed to be a 9/11 survivor.
Was it God? Was it faith? Is it because we have something to do?
She joined a major survivor support group and even became its president. She did tours at Ground Zero, gave speeches, and met with the mayor.
Her story kind of fit into that kind of all-encompassing a survivor and a hero and, a widow and everything that kind of 9/11 came to represent.
In reality, she was still living in Spain in 2001. She didn't come to the US until 2003. Unlike most of our scammers, she apparently didn't do this for money. Head doesn't seem to have profited from her deception at all. In fact, she donated her own money to the support group. Her true motivations still remain a mystery.
I just hope that she really does get the help she needs and that she can live a full life.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. A Million Little Pieces. James Frey's memoir tells of his struggles with substance use disorder and his time in rehab. After Oprah Winfrey selected it for her book club, it shot to the top of the bestseller list.
It's a gut-wrenching memoir that is raw and it's so real.
Just a few months later, investigators discovered the story was a lie. Initially, Frey doubled down, claiming that the book was the essential truth of his life. Eventually, he was forced to admit that he made most of it up.
It was a mistake. It was a bad mistake.
This wasn't the first time Oprah was fooled by a fake memoir. Misha, a memoir of the Holocaust years, was a book club pick before it was proven false. More than a decade after Frey's confession, a film adaptation of the book was released starring Aaron Taylor Johnson. It was not well received.
How you doing? Some days I feel okay, others I just want to crawl up in a dark hole and die.
I'm good. You're doing okay then.
Which of these con artists do you think is the most shameless? Let us know in the comments.
The responsibility for that situation all has to come back to me.